Oh, we're live. It's Saturday morning, and I was gonna do a nice little dope introduction for the show today, but I don't really have one, and I got the pod crew waiting, so we're just gonna get started with hey, it's the big baby, and I'm back with my friends. Let's introduce everybody. What's up, Wayne?
What up, dog?
Travis, how we doing?
What's going on, man?
Candace, morning.
Good afternoon, morning.
And to our special guest today, how you doing, Miss KP,
Hey,
Miss Rooted Wellness? So I'm happy to have you all here today. We got a nice little list of topics. We're gonna try to keep this to no longer than 3 hours and one bathroom break for me, cause people got stuff to do today. But before we start, I think Candace has a special announcement to make. And we're gonna put it on the front end of this.
What?
Don't you got a podcast or something?
Oh, I thought the special announcement you were referring to was the apology topic. I was
No,
like,
we weren't gonna open there.
I do, yes. So I have a podcast. We talked before on here about the seasoned salt, which was a collaboration with me and a ministry partner. The seasoned salt has transitioned into Black and Called. Easy to find on Instagram, just Black and Called. And it also has a podcast component. We do a lot to inspire creatives, entrepreneurs, and really everybody, not just in those like kind of pockets of inspiration, but people who are called to anything. Some people are called to teaching, some people are called to be parents, but trying to inspire Black people in what they're called to, especially millennials. So,
Black and Called.
Black and Called.
Hey man, you are Black and you are called. All of y'all are Black and Called. And
It's true. Everyone here is Black and Called. Especially you.
yeah, I've heard that I was black a lot in my life.
I knew he was gonna go there.
I was talking about the
I
color,
already knew
not
that.
the black part, but okay.
All right, so I've been coming up with this list of words or phrases that I'm just really tired of hearing, right? And I just think we need to cancel them, along with cancel culture. And I think it started with the conversation I was having with Trevez a couple months ago, just about how when people just be saying certain shit, it don't matter what it is that they're talking about. I no longer want to listen because they've lost me. So, like, the first phrase is protecting my energy. Like, oh, I'm doing this right here to protect my energy. Don't get me wrong. It is important to protect your energy. But God damn it, every time something is off, it ain't always about your energy. You know what? Sometimes you're going to have a bad day. And I think it's just an overused phrase that takes away the value of situations that actually require someone protecting their energy. Oh, don't respond at once. Y'all ain't gonna touch it. Y'all scared? I mean, what's
I was
going
ready, I was waiting on you to hit your words, man. What words? What? Give me some more specifics so we can.
on? Okay. The next
Yeah.
one is manifesting. You always manifesting something. How about you work hard and go do it?
Ooh.
I know what I deserve. Do you really? Do you really know what it is that you deserve? You may feel like you deserve something or you want something, but you don't. You don't always know. You might value yourself much highly than what you really are, or maybe you don't value yourself enough because you just aren't self-aware. Keep the same energy. No, I'm gonna feel how I feel when I feel like feeling. Don't tell me how to feel. Period. Or its close cousin. Period. Poo. Nothing else left. Yes. Yeah. Okay, it's yes. Stop it. Use your English. Talking about retrograde. All that star worship, that's idol worship. I don't need to hear none of that nonsense. People ain't ready for that conversation. No, yes, they are. Like, there's a lot of people having these conversations. You're just not listening to them. Get your head out of the sand. Mannish. That's for Candace. I actually think we should keep that word around. And the word female, it's been brought to my attention in recent history that referring to a woman as a female and just leaving it as female is disrespectful.
Can we leave that female for another conversation? Like after
Yeah.
this topic?
Yeah,
Because
I think female's gonna work by itself.
yeah, that's gonna carry itself.
So let me play hardball with you, Adam. Let's go ahead and start potting, man. As far as people that aren't ready for that conversation, some people aren't, man. And you have to know who you engaging and who you speaking to in order to make sure that you are relaying information to the right audience. Because in certain scenarios, people have to be in a certain space and a certain mind frame to hear certain things in order for it to be an effective and efficient form of communication. I think it's valuable to look at somebody and say, no, you're not ready to have this conversation. Go sit down, check in with yourself, get your life together, come back, let's revisit. But I don't know. I'm gonna hold on to that one, whether you despise it or not.
That's the right answer, Wayne. But I think more so what Adam is talking to about all these social media activists who not really trying to have that conversation themselves, but want to point out that somebody else is not ready for the conversation.
Okay.
Yes. I was not talking about in a one-on-one situation where I'm talking about this widespread. Oh, but they ain't ready to talk about that though.
Right.
Yes, we are.
You talking about the uninformed, uneducated who like to just drop that and walk away to prevent them from demonstrating any form of depth? That community?
Exactly.
Yeah. The super woke community, barely made it through high school, but all of a sudden they got all the answers because I was learning the right stuff while y'all was learning what was in them school books.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when people say, oh, but you're not ready for that conversation, sometimes I want to flip it and say, no, you're not ready because you haven't researched it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're talking about. That's why you're saying that. Because you can't tell me what I'm ready for. You have no idea. You're scared that when you say what you're thinking that that I'm going to come back with something because I actually know what I'm talking about.
That deflect.
And along those lines, because I don't have the conversation with you, don't mean I ain't ready for it. Maybe it's not worth my time to have that conversation with you. Because, like you said, you're not ready for it.
Okay. So, how do you propose they fill in that gap, Adam? They want to make something known, but they don't want to embarrass themselves on their platform. How do you propose they fill that gap in, man?
So I learned something a long time ago.
Uh-oh.
It was when you're doing a presentation, if you don't know what something is, don't use it in your presentation. If you're going to use an acronym, make sure you know what the acronym means, because sometimes you may have to shorten the acronym for the space of your PowerPoint, right? And use it instead of presenting a full word just for the optics. And I was always taught, don't bring up information that you can't intelligently speak about. So if I don't know about something, I'm not going to act as if I know about it. That's my advice to them.
Okay.
But what do I know?
So I have a perspective to offer to this that's a little different than the way we've been going. Because the place where I usually see they not ready for that conversation these days is Black people referencing white people and issues of injustice in the Black community. There's a lot of, I don't see as much, y'all not ready for that conversation. Well, I see it in Black people referencing white people and social justice, and I see it in men referencing women in conversations about women's behaviors. Men often saying to women, y'all not ready for that conversation. So I think it's interesting, the male agreement to the perspective that's being offered by Wayne, Chu, and also Kariki. But specifically because you two guys brought that perspective as well, that sometimes the people who are saying they're not ready for the conversation really are the ones that ain't ready. That's interesting when considering men frequently saying that to women in social media space. These memes that are like, y'all women say one thing and do another, but y'all not ready for that conversation. I don't know. It's pretty recurring. So what do you like? How do you deal with that? What do you say to your own male community in that regard? And then when it comes to Black people, do you still think, like, do all of you still think that Black people are saying to white people, y'all not ready for that conversation because we're not ready to have it? Because I actually do think that there's some preparedness available for Black people to get into, to have conversations about social justice that a lot of us haven't touched yet.
Okay. Let me preface my antics with this. All right. I usually generalize when I'm trying to stir the pot. So when I throw that y'all phrase out there, I'm poking. I'm trying to stir the pot up. So in scenarios where it's in reference to the other gender, that's me stirring the pot up, and I'm all for it. I love that part of it because I like to spark that conversation, knowing that that's usually what it's going to turn into. In reference to the racism history portion of it, I think that's a little different. There's so much history that hasn't been taught that I would likely agree that a lot of things that we aren't ready for. When we look at the way that the traditional education system is laid out in this nation, there's so much anti-African American history conversation that occurs in the classrooms that there's a lot that doesn't get discussed. Even from the use of the language of slave to those that are enslaved, the language, the words, the implement of those in the textbooks, they drive a different conversation, which is where I go back to things like that 1619 project and how that should be put into the schools to allow everyone to be ready to have that conversation. But when it comes to the racism part, I don't think everyone's ready because there's so much that's happened, not just in this nation, but in order for this nation to be built, that we have missed and haven't heard about yet, that I don't think we are ready to actually have an intelligent conversation. But we can have a conversation where things get shared, information comes about, and then hopefully we go back and do our research. But for that portion of it, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are actually ready from an informed perspective.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And then also with just to answer your question, Candace, I don't, and kind of like what Wayne said, if I use that y'all phrase, I don't do it on a public platform anyway because I don't care about everybody's response. So I'm gonna use it with people that I'm trying to have a conversation with. So yeah, in our group chat, we'll bring up something like that all the time, stirring the pot, but we're having a conversation about it. But I'm not gonna. I don't care to. I don't speak generally out there like that anyway, unless I'm really trying to have that conversation.
And I think dudes who say that are suckers anyways. So I'm usually making fun of them if I'm putting that in any type of group chat discussion thing because it's like, bruh, people that have whatever conversation you have with them. I'm someone who likes to talk. If you want to have a particular conversation with a person, you can have that conversation as long as you present it in a way that makes that person open enough to receiving what it is that you're saying. But yeah, to that race conversation, yeah, a lot of people aren't ready to have that race conversation because you don't know what the backlash is going to be because we're often comfortable living in a place of ignorance of we don't talk religion, we don't talk politics. Why? Because we may find out somebody that we have to be around, somebody that we thought that we like, somebody that we thought that we love thinks differently of us or our people than what's presented to us. So we try to live in this place of blissful ignorance of I've known you forever, or you're my boss, or you're my coworker, and I don't want to really know how you feel about these hot button issues because you may not feel the right way towards them or the way that makes me now feel comfortable being around you, even though your feelings may not actually affect what we do with each other day to day. And you're afraid of that unknown. So yeah, people are on the same side saying, hey, you're not ready to have that conversation. You may be right, they're not, but you're not ready to have it either.
Can we invoke a name drop in this one real quick?
If you're dropping the name, you can drop whatever name you want.
Hey, I appreciate it. So we go back to not too long ago in our recent American history where the artist known as Kanye went public with the statement slavery was a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude caught all sorts of hell. The challenge that I have with his conversation is the lack of detail he gave, But there were some people that chose, instead of to be enslaved, they chose to walk off of ships. They chose to walk into water and end their own lives instead of finding themselves to be in a position where they are enslaved. When it's presented that way, his statement has some value. It has some logic to it, because there were people that absolutely chose to not live versus being enslaved. But when we have conversations like this, we have to really be willing to dig in and push to have that conversation public, to allow people to be in a position where they can do some research, to dig in and understand the history of where they're coming from. And then they will hear about the water walkers of that era that made that life choice, or that choice to not live under those conditions.
But that conversation requires a feeling of vulnerability, right? And in the society that we live in, with being people afraid of being canceled, which cancel culture is fake for the most part. If you're good, you're good. So people are afraid of that because you may show your vulnerabilities or your ignorance, and that in turn becomes with you being intolerant of something that you're actually ignorant to.
I feel you on that. And if anybody tunes into the Black and Call podcast, they'll have a little conversation with you about the value of not living in that cancel culture concept. So, food for thought, some information out there about that.
Kariki, you quiet.
What I was going to say, on the flip side is there are some of us who are not, us Black people, who are not, we don't have, how can I say this? Not that you need to be calm, but we don't know how to have an intelligent conversation when it comes to race relations in this country, because our feelings are involved. And sometimes people can't hear you. They can't hear anything that you're saying because of how you present it. I know for me personally, a portion of my life, I didn't grow up in this country. So there's a lot of things that I don't know, and I'd have to read about it in order to have an intelligent conversation with a white person about my feelings about how we're treated in this country. And then there's a portion of Black people who feel like I shouldn't have anything to say because I'm first generation American. So, that's a whole thing too. They feel like I shouldn't say, and I'm fair skinned, so I just really should shut up. So there is a whole list of things when it comes to y'all not ready for that conversation. Well, maybe I'm not ready for it either, or people who are like me aren't ready for it. I'm not the ambassador for that talk because of being first gen and being fair skinned, according to a lot of Black people in America. So I ain't ready. So they ain't ready.
There's a lot of stupid Black people in America, so they you can feel however you feel, and I think that our backgrounds, our different backgrounds can put us in different places to have certain conversations. But do your homework, if you do your homework, I think that anyone can add value to any conversation. It's like the idea of, oh, well, you didn't play this game. How can you write about it? How can you coach it? You can still have an understanding of what's happening in a different perspective, even from the perspective of the person who lives that life, which may amplify some things that people who are actually in that struggle, who come from that different background, can understand.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And just because someone may be first generation Black in America, who am I to tell you that your experience isn't value, and or you don't have enough experience to talk about this or to be on this platform? You know.
That and the idea of the issues that we deal with in this nation aren't exclusive to this nation. They are absolutely the common denominator, and the issues that are being addressed are highly in reference to our melanin levels, period. So for those of us that, regardless of whether we grew up in the UK, whether we grew up in the US, whether we came up on the islands, it's always a melanin related issue. However, we want to divide it. We want to break it down. We want to put it into various sects in order to make it more of a you can't speak on this because you don't know my struggles conversation, where in reality, the issue isn't about where you're from. It's 100% about what you look like. But go for it. Feel free to make it a where you're from conversation. So that way we can continue to stand in a divided manner, that we can't come together and actually have a powerful conversation and be heard collectively and go forward and make some type of progress in this. I would encourage those that try to take it and break it down to those little things to just cut it out.
Yeah, because who's winning, right? Who's fighting to figure out who's more oppressed? Because when they
Bingo.
see us, we all look the same. And so, and I would like to say I've had some of the same experiences as my friends who were born here, getting pulled over and, talked to a certain way or followed in the store just like everybody else. Nobody knows I'm first gen when those things happen. So yeah. And it does divide us. Like, why are we fighting to figure out who's more oppressed? We all oppressed.
Bingo. Come
But were you
together.
in the
Let's grow.
store
Let's
stealing?
progress.
That's my question. Were you in the store stealing when they was following you?
Why I
'Cause
got
sometimes they follow you and you're actually stealing and you need to be followed.
I may have thought about stealing, but I ain't never stolen anything before.
And then he's trying to get her in a public arena.
You know what I'm saying? You've lied now? Is that how you live?
Hold on, no. I knew that she would have the elegance and grace not to admit to stealing, even
I
if
would
she
never
was
steal
stealing.
anything.
No,
Yeah, like come on.
no,
Now, you think I was
no,
associated with
no,
thieves, Candace?
That man said, "I knew she would have the elegance and grace not to admit to stealing." Is what he said.
I also don't lie, so I've never
Yeah.
stolen anything in my life.
Exactly. I don't associate with lies and thieves.
Hey, you a lie right now because you're on the hook with at least one.
I
You're on
don't
the hook
know
with at
any
least
lies and
one.
thieves.
But all right, man. So you were talking a little bit about the manifesting part, right?
Yeah.
Before I go down my rabbit hole, which side of manifesting did you take smoke with? And I asked that question saying it this way. Some people need to sit and process some things mentally before they can go forward and go public with it. And I'm not sure if that's the direction you're going with your manifesting
No.
conversation, or if you're
I'm
talking
not.
about the people that are screaming about chakras and have never paid attention to a book.
Yes, I'm not talking about people who actually manifest. Like none of these things are like, even with protecting your energy. I'm not talking about people who are actually living these actions. I'm talking about just the overuse of the phrase. It's like, oh, I'm manifesting a good day today. Look, how about you just get off your ass, go work out, eat breakfast, and do the good stuff that's gonna make your day good, and telling me how you gonna manifest it. Yeah, I'm gonna good fortunes. Yes, I'm gonna have money this year. Well, are you gonna change your spending habits? Are you gonna invest more? Are you gonna pick up another job? Maybe? Are you gonna cut your expense? Like, you gonna do something to have more money, or you just go, yes, we manifest. It's like giving it to the Lord in prayer. Okay, yeah, you can give it to the Lord in prayer, but if you don't listen to what comes from the prayer, use the resources around you. You just praying for no damn reason.
My favorite is I'm manifesting a husband this year. How? How are you doing that? Please let me know.
While sitting in the house waiting on him to break in. Ain't been nowhere. Ain't been grocery shopping. Everybody deliver stuff to you. You gonna manifest it that way? Yeah, go for it. Grow him in your bathroom.
He gonna be the Uber Eats delivery driver.
Did somebody grow a boyfriend in a bathtub in a recent Netflix show? Did somebody boyfriend?
Trying to get out.
Girlfriend in the bathroom?
What you got going
Man,
on over
that's
there?
Bo's throwing a
What you got
bone,
going on
man.
over there,
Calm
Candace?
down.
I was about to. Oh, okay. I was about
Let
to
that man
say,
in the bathroom.
what's going on in the bathroom?
Yeah. So
I guess you more so talking about just the clout of it, so to speak.
yeah.
Because most of the people that's doing these things, they're not constantly talking about it. So the ones who pop up one day, oh, this manifestation word look good. Let me use this. It sounds good. It sounds good.
Well, I'm happy I took Gucci on a walk before this. He over here asleep.
Hey, Bo's about to tear up the neighborhood. Okay.
I just think that, well, my take on it, For people who don't believe in Jesus, I think manifesting is an easy word to use. I think that it came out of nowhere. But I mean, if that's what people want to use, then and it works for them, then they can. But yeah, I think it's weird when people just randomly throw it out and they're not doing any work to get it done.
I'm with you, Adam. That word can go away.
Are there any more that y'all want to get into before Candace goes in on mannish?
Nah, we can we can give the floor to Queen Lovelace.
Candace, can you explain what it means? I don't even know what it means.
I will. So this is a real country. To me, it's a country statement. Y'all can correct me if you've heard it elsewhere. Adam is smiling because he probably grew up with somebody using the term mannish in his space. Basically,
because of his actions.
Y'all can go to hell.
Why would you let me be discreet? Why would you let me be discreet? Let me explain this. So mannish means it's usually used to refer to a little boy acting grown in some sort of way. And when I've typically used or heard it, yes, and used it, it's been to refer to a little boy acting grown sexually some sort of way, like trying to say something about a girl that's a little fly for him to be as young as he is, or trying to, I don't know, make certain body movements and things of that nature. Like, look at this little mannish boy over here. My conversation is not to necessarily cancel the word. I just realized when it came up that even though it's typically used to describe a little boy acting grown, I thought it was interesting to hear adults use mannish to describe adult men too. I'm not sure what to do with that. Adam, I don't even remember what you said that made me say, let's talk about mannish. Do you?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Where did that word, like, I don't know if I just figured this out, but does it come from like man-ish? Being like a man?
Being like a man.
I ain't never thought about that in 29 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Acting like a man, that's right.
Man,
That's
okay.
what I'm saying. I just thought it was interesting. Like, it just occurred to me to put man and ish together and say, oh, acting of the nature of
a man.
Okay, but it's not cute actually to think about a child acting like a man, not only on the child side but also on the man side. Because whatever it was that you said was kind of alluding to a man being mannish. Oh, we were talking about you.
Well, me?
Yeah.
About me being mannish.
Yeah. You said you were being mannish. And I was like, so you being childish or grown? Not sure.
Yeah, being mannish, being a grown man.
Can we go ahead and talk fast in this conversation as well? The female version of mannish.
The female version of mannish.
Can I use that word?
Acting fast.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just, having a good time.
Mariki, your face is like,
what did you version? Hold on.
Let's just cancel it. I don't like it. Cancel it. It's trash. I don't like it. I don't like one of them. I don't like fast, mannish, none of it. Just get rid of it.
Them words ain't gonna be canceled, sweetheart.
It's
too much history in that one. You don't even want to fight that battle.
Can we go straight from Kariki's cancellation request into female?
Yeah, we can roll into that.
Adam,
I mean, I don't know. I didn't know it was an offensive term. I was
very clear that you do not know.
Yeah, we was in the Spell House Millennials group text, and some young lady posted after you hear the word female or something, words to the effect that there's no value after it. And I was like, that's nonsense. Because I done said use the word female, and I was well intentioned after what I was saying. I was saying something that damn mattered. So she was wrong. But then it turned into the bigger conversation of using the term female to describe women. And I come from the place of, yeah, I'm just referring to you, a woman, yeah, a female, like, we when we do a job application, male, female, no, no malice behind the word at all. But I've since been corrected.
Bruh, how you get corrected on something that stands as true though? I don't understand how you got corrected on an objective truth.
Because in this world that we live in, people can assign definitions to words that they deem offensive.
Question.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
When you're standing in a group, do you say those males over there or do you say those men? I just have a
I
question.
say hard legs.
No, shut up, Adam.
No, literally, no one ever says, "Look at those males."
Those males over there. Look at them.
Hey, I don't know how to get there, but the males on the corner might be able to tell you the way.
But I don't think many people also say, "Look at those female." Oh, never mind, they do. I take that back.
They do.
They say the male chorus.
But there's a difference between common diction and inappropriate. The term
Right.
female it's a common diction. It's common in the language, and it's not anything outlandish or inappropriate. It's a common term. Now, if we don't like the common term, that's a different ball game.
Why is it common though?
Yeah, because it's not a noun. It's an adjective.
Right. What's wrong with the descriptor?
Because female and male are used to describe bathrooms. They're like what bathroom?
When you're filling out an application, they're not asking you what bathroom you use. Like,
Yeah, they ask.
You can describe like dogs, a female dog or a male dog, a female alligator or a male alligator.
Yeah, it speaks to the XXXY genome. It speaks to the born nature of the person. Were you born XX or XY? Like that. We can go XXXY.
I don't know about what you're born.
People at the top of this screen are evading a question. It was asked. I would like to ask my question again, and I hope that you will answer it this time.
what's the question?
I'm gonna listen intently and I'm ready.
Why is the use of female common to describe a group of women and the use of male not common to describe a group of men?
Because y'all chose not to use the word males.
It's not y'all, Adam. Because
Okay, cancel the second part of the question. Why do you find it acceptable? Why do you find it acceptable to use half of that dynamic and not the other half?
I find it acceptable because when I look at the group, that is the adjective that comes to mind. When I look at the other group, that's not necessarily the adjective that comes to mind. I can only go off of what my brain populates. If my brain populates group of females, group of women, group of, that's what it populates. There's very few scenarios where I've ever looked around the room and like, wow, it's a group of males over there. Like that it doesn't populate like that. That's not the adjective that comes to mind.
But here's the thing: if somebody did use that, would you have an issue with it?
No.
Like if
someone looks at me and be like, you're a male. I'm like,
you
right.
don't know it because you don't have to experience it.
Well, hold on. Just because he wouldn't be offended by it doesn't mean that they can't be offended by it now.
Yeah, I speak for me. I think
a lot of the times, from my experience, when I see men say female online, what usually comes after it is not positive. So I've never seen anyone say these women and then something negative all the time. But almost all the time I see someone say female on social media, something negative comes after it. And then, of course, there's the whole thing where not everyone is like, there are some people who were born female and don't identify as a woman.
Yeah,
So,
Is the issue more so rooted in that your experience from it being that way, where most of the time you've seen it, is something negative come behind it?
well, that, and also it's like, why is it necessary? Why can you just not call us women? Why does it always have to seem like it's some type of inferiority thing? Like, why can't we just be called women if that's what we want to be called?
I don't. Yes, what you say makes absolute sense. But I think that from the male perspective, that's not a conversation that's had commonly enough, because I did not realize using the term female was offensive at all. So I think there are a lot of men who come from a place of ignorance and not malice, like just not knowing that it's disrespectful to call women females, because not many women will be like, please don't call me female. And like, all right, whatever, bitch, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, and then that's okay too, right? But and that's another conversation where it's like, hold on, hoe and bitch is okay, but females not. I'm confused.
Hey man, I I struggle with it. As I sit here now, I understand for you two ladies, that is a term when you hear it. I understand the way that it has been primed, the way that when you hear it, you feel that something negative is coming, and I get it.
I actually didn't say that.
You're correct. You did not. KP's language. I apologize for putting KP's language on you. I stand corrected. I'll draw that back. Okay. For me, I stand hard on it. It's an adjective. It works. We can look back into. We'll go to Genesis. Male and female created he them. It's there. I've never looked at it with a negative connotation. Um, so whenever I hear it, I just say, okay, that's the gender that's over there.
I think to specifically highlight the reason why I mentioned that I didn't say that when I did is because I think the issue that I see with females is that usually when it's used, it is to lump women's thoughts and behaviors into one thing. So you kind of like have the spirit of female in my eye without saying without saying the words right then. And that is what I see as being the problem with it, which I do think, to be fair, is inherently derogatory. Because you don't like, none of you gentlemen like, when men are generalized in a way, especially when it pertains to negative behavior that you don't appreciate being associated with. And it's not always that men are saying something negative about women when they're lumping in some way. It's just that there's a dehumanization that occurs when you look at a woman as a woman more than you do a woman as a person. And I think most men look at women more like women than they do people. Like, y'all are people, we are women. When you say men and call us females, it even like furthers that distinction.
Okay.
But
I appreciate that insight. That's something I can chew on. I know historically when I use the term humans, that gets a lot more flack than it does when I say the term female, but I'm with it. I understand where you're coming from. I appreciate you sharing that.
So
I
that
think
takes
she
me
lip
kind of
spoke. You're welcome.
so that takes me to another question. Can someone be offended and be wrong? Can
Yes.
someone be okay?
Yes. Just because it bothers you doesn't remove the truth of it.
Absolutely.
So is it on you as the person who presents something to be sure that what you're saying is inclusive of all those people that you're talking to?
It's a choice. And if you're anything like me where you all for stirring the pot up on something, nah.
So how do we? So where do we draw that line for what's okay to be offended by and what's like absolutely not?
I don't draw the line, man. I say something that bothers you, that's for you to work out. You go figure out why it bothered you. You can come converse with me about it. And then based on what was said, if I find myself in a position where what I said was legit a issue, then I will make my apology in sincerity and kind of clean that up. But at the end of the day, if we had to be cautious about every word that we spoke to a manner in which we're concerned about offending someone, we'll walk around muzzled. I'm confident before this conversation is over, before this podcast is over today, Adam, the four of you will be offended by something I say. I have issues. I'll go with it. If we ever get to a point where we can't just speak freely and then communicate about what was said and why it was offended, I think we lose a lot of human interaction. But you're allowed to feel however you want to feel, just like I'm allowed to converse however I like to converse. And if you don't like my conversation, we can always leave one another's presence. But you can feel how you want to feel. You're not wrong for feeling. Feeling's good.
And I think that this particular topic is like a general topic, but like if I said something or called you something and you don't like that and express to me that you don't like that, I probably won't call you that again. Not to say I won't go call somebody else that, but I probably won't call you that again because you asked me not to. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it for everybody else. If the other person is not saying that they're offended by it, then there's a good chance that I may or may not, follow what I'm doing for you, for them. So it just depends.
You know, Kariki,
Ma'am, that is so respectable.
Do what now?
Go ahead.
I was saying that's respectable because I look at Lovelace on a regular basis and I'd be like, "What's up, pimping?" And she'd be like, "Sir, do not refer to me as that in any capacity." But it comes out of my mouth so naturally in conversation.
What was it?
Oh, pimping.
I'm sorry.
Pimping, player.
Pimping,
Yeah, those
man.
words.
I don't like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, she said the same thing.
Hey, Chew.
Yeah.
Chew.
What's up?
What was just discussed, it takes me to a quote that I've used for probably about 2 years now, about what Kariki's saying, how she may not say something in one place because it's not acceptable, but say it in another place when it is acceptable, That's why I say I call the bitches because the bitches love it. You know what I mean? Because where it's acceptable and they love it. And then the women's get mad when I say that because they thinking that I think that all women's is bitches, but all women ain't bitches. It's just the bitches are the bitches.
Women's? Women.
Hey, it made perfect sense to me, bro. I don't use it the way you do, but it makes perfect sense to me.
I won't try to understand it.
Thank you. It makes no sense to me.
It's actually very simple, but we'll carry on.
I mean, I hear him. It just don't make no sense.
Your name is what you respond to. So if you respond to a certain name, I'm gonna call you by your name. That's all.
So you're saying here in this house that you have called a woman bitch and she has said yes?
I'm not gonna answer that question.
I've seen it happen before. I won't say by who, but I've seen it happen before.
Yep.
So,
but there's females who called each other bitch and responded to it.
Yeah, just like it's niggas who call each other nigga and respond to it.
That's true.
I'm sorry, I ain't mean to. My bad. There are women who have called each other bitch and have responded to it. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. I promise I didn't do that intentionally. That was not intentional. It just rolled off like pimping roll off Wayne mouth when he see you, Candace.
I know, and I don't want to disrespect your apology. I am appreciative of you. I just think it's interesting how you literally acted out what Kariki said.
No, and that's true. But I never said she was wrong.
You did not. This point out is for the people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the people. Well, it just happened.
So Candace, do you want to tell your robot dream first or present your apology?
I'm gonna tell my robot dream first, so I
Okay.
can explain to Kariki what happened, and to the rest of Earth who has no idea what we're talking about. Also, because it kind of ties into this females conversation. So one day, I had a dream that that all the women in the world had been somehow entranced and were now robots, for the purpose of doing men's bidding, right? So men were doing, I guess, all of the thoughts based work and, politicking in the earth and all these things, and women all basically were like Stepford wives. And in the dream, I knew that I was a robot. Like I was having these moments of like awakening, like there was a life before where I was now, but I couldn't like get out of the spell, whatever the spell was. So eventually, in the end though, I did like wake up and I discovered myself in this Morehouse dude's house that I have never dated, by the way. But it's a real person and I was trying to get out. That was it.
It sounds like
It was rough.
it sounds like a paradise for me.
What you
hell. It sounds like
Talking about
Wendy's.
women being robots, you can program them to do exactly what you want.
Bruh. You're on your own.
I'm not
Yeah.
serious.
I ain't buying it.
I'm not serious at all. Y'all think I would really just come out and hang on that cliff alone?
Crazy things have happened.
Would you be alone?
He definitely wouldn't be alone. I wouldn't be with him, but he wouldn't be alone.
Yeah. You might be kicked out of my circle, but folks out there,
Nah,
there's some folks out there that'll love to run with you.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I mean, it's folks out there that are it's males out there that are living their life.
I see your game.
Twist on it for y'all.
I see your game. So when you were sitting in this nightmare, they are dreams too, what was your takeaway?
That's a great question, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. My takeaway was that it's not entirely, my dream was not entirely a figment of my imagination. I actually think I may have had the dream in some part because around that time, I think, maybe this happened after the dream, so I might be appropriating it onto this. But around that time, I think we were having a conversation about women, like the social media face of women. Like,
that conversation was before you told us about the dream.
Right. So I think something was in my head about that conversation. Maybe something else had kind of come up, to make it alive for me at the moment. But there was, like the kind of Kim Kardashian look.
Yes, we were talking about somebody who had that look or some lip fillers, the high cheekbone lip filler color of your sweater face, all of that black hair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, straight hair.
Yeah, waist this small, ass all the way out here though, you know what I mean? Titties with the same cleavage lines, all that shit, same perfect cleavage and everything. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, there were a couple of examples that we had found, and it was a meme that was like, why does everyone look the same, or why is like this the one aspiration? I think Wayne had determined it was like a walking Bratz doll.
Sounds about right. It sounds horrible, man. And I refer to it as a nightmare because I can't imagine being in a space where there's no charisma in the room. There's no personality. There's just a bunch of people droning around. Ugh,
Well, that's what culture is moving towards right now
you a
because
lie.
we're getting to a place where people are being silenced for having different views. And some of those views are so ignorant that they probably should be silenced, but it makes people who, again, come from a place of ignorance and not malice, it makes them afraid to speak what they want to speak. And we all have to fall in line because something is offensive to Wayne, it's supposed to be offensive to me. And I'm supposed to be sympathetic and empathetic to all of everyone's needs, and including my own at the same time. And then, social media culture and these algorithms, they manipulate what we see and what goes into our head. So then we keep seeing this one look of what beauty becomes. And girls think that they're supposed to look like that in order to be beautiful. So then they start pulling towards that. So now you got one side of society being afraid to speak their truths and just falling in line to what culture says is the truth and not pushing back on it. Then you have women wanting to look like one woman because apparently this is the look to have, this is the way to act, to have life together. And we are just slowly stripping away free thought. And then we're going to have a society of fucking robots. But it's not just going to be the women. It's going to be the men too, because so many men are paralyzed to the way they're supposed to act, the way they're supposed to look based off of what they see. Like, how many people out here are 25 years old trying to figure out life and thinking they're supposed to make it? Like, no, bro. The people who make it by 25 are the exception. They're not the norm.
That's fair. I think because you put a couple of things together, and those are some pretty tough conversations if we really dive into it. There's one part of the conversation where it sounds like we're speaking towards the acceptance. I want to be accepted by society in mass. I want humans to look at me and see me as someone that is the standard of social media beautiful versus me coming to grips with who I am as a person and being okay with who I am as a person. I am going to paint my face or do makeup, whatever that devil's paint stuff happens, paint my face and present contour lines and things in that nature to be acceptable to the general public versus being confident and okay in who you are as a person. I think some root cause analysis needs to happen in that scenario so you can figure out why so many people had this burning desire to look like one human. I would argue that's one of the pieces that need to be invoked. Lovelace, I saw your lips moving, but I don't know what came out your face.
I was trying to figure out if you call makeup devil paint.
Yeah, the devil's paint.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
wanting to make sure I heard you right. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no
Why
worries. I
was the
got it.
devil's paint?
Bruh. It is the let me go ahead. Let's pod today, Act. It is the most deceitful item in the beauty market, and it's available to many. We have seen human beings
You forgot
put
about
that
Botox.
stuff on. Say it again.
You forgot about Botox. I think it's worse than makeup.
It might be worse, but it's not as deceitful because it's not as available. The
Right.
value,
Makeup is more accessible.
Yeah, you can spend 10 minutes at Ulta Beauty and you can come out of there prepared to look like a whole new human being. Like what makeup has done and what people have been able to do with makeup, and how they've been able to not just change, enhance their appearance just to, get a little confidence boost. They came out whole new shades of a person. You went from being my complexion to walking around Lovelace's complexion. And that was, there was a lot of sponging and painting and rubbing on and stuff that happened. But that's the way that I've witnessed some of these transformations. And I sit there in shock and awe. How does a person get to a point where they are so uncomfortable with what they see in the mirror that they 100% change everything that's going on with their presentation? I'll bite my tongue for the sake of conversation before I go into the conversation pertaining to the bleaching of skin and the lightening of skin, which is crazy in the Asia region. Go ahead.
Not all makeup is bad. I think that it depends on who's using it, right? Like we are all given tools that can be manipulated into something that's bad. So, I mean, whether it's you taking a Tylenol because you have a headache and then overdosing, or me putting on lipstick and then someone like transforming themselves into somebody completely different. I like makeup, and I watch makeup artists who are really good at what they do. They describe it as an art form and not necessarily, you know.
It's some Van Gogh type shit.
Say again?
It's some Van Gogh type shit.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a skill to do that. I do think that there are women out there who think that they have to do that every single day. And there are people who are not comfortable with the skin that they're in. And there are people who want to look like other people. So it's not, basically I'm saying like, it's not, I don't think it's the devil, and I don't think like it's a monolithic thing. I think that people use it for different reasons, you know, whether it's to enhance your beauty. Maybe you've been in a pandemic for however long and you want to put on some makeup because you haven't been anywhere. You know, I think everyone does something different with makeup.
Yes, and as I said earlier, I'm here to pod today. So when I speak to and call it the devil's paint, I call it the devil's paint in the same capacity that we call marijuana the devil's grass. Like, it's not in and of itself a horrible thing. However, when used to alter, to deceive, to work outside of its original context, I think it's a little sketchy for me. I've seen some crazy transitions out there. And by crazy I mean you were a whole man and now you literally look like a whole young lady. And that's courtesy of the art and the skill that came with applying that makeup. You literally changed your whole beard, didn't shave it, it just went away because you understood the art of application. And then you did your contouring and all those other things, and bada bing, bada boom. I don't recognize you based on that XXXY thing anymore.
When I think of Candace's robot dream, I thought of a story that this girl I knew told me where she would go to bed with her man, her partner, in full makeup. And she would have her hair done. And then he would sleep. And then she would get up in the morning, wash her face, do her hair again, and put her makeup back on, get back in the bed. And then when he like wakes up, this is what he sees. The same person who he went to bed with last night and not her actual self.
Ma'am,
Girl,
let me share with you. Here I am, all of my heathenistic ways. I'm sitting in Sunday school. Yes, I went to Sunday school, Chew. And while I'm sitting in Sunday school, a young lady shared that same conversation. She said, my husband will never see me with my face undone. And I said, how is that? And like, y'all don't swim, y'all don't, never mind, not that part's not important. But I was just like, really? And she goes to bed last and she wakes up first. And her intent is to never be seen unpainted. I found myself shocked. But I want you to know you're not the only person that has had that conversation.
Wayne, I'm about to tell you there's this thing that there's makeup that you can swim in and it doesn't come off.
I can only take your word for it.
It sounds exhausting to live that way.
Bruh. My
what kind
body's
of
burning
man are
thinking
you
about
with?
doing this all day. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like what kind of man is the man that his woman be all day, every day? Like,
It wasn't a demand, it was her choice.
Yes, but This is unpopular conversation, not for Kariki and me, but for you all, perhaps. Oh,
They don't want to have that conversation. No.
I'm sorry, what? When you are in relationship with someone, whether it is a committed, non-married relationship or a married relationship, I'm just going to use that range of examples, okay? And you frequent the people's social media space. Let's just stick with Instagram for the time, all right? And you make it your regular business to like, comment, subscribe to the pages of every beautiful fitness model that you see. Um, it's a little mixed messaging depending on leave your hand down, depending on who you are and how you live the rest of your life. Okay. For example, if the people that you like, comment on, subscribe, look like who you're out here trying to date, then the only question that I have, if I have one even, is does that dynamic work for y'all's relationship? Are you, sir, for example, also cool with sis blowing up Michael B. Jordan posts with heart eyes, reposting or putting Steph Curry in her stories like, this nigga fine, okay? Is that okay? If it is, then y'all live your life.
Get a close friend.
Okay? And people can feel your close friends. They don't have to see it. It's in your spirit. So the thing about most guys, though, is that the person who they dating or trying to date, beautiful women, gorgeous women, but they don't look like your social media prototype. I'm not saying that everybody has to make the same decisions, but some people's way of coping with this persistent issue is trying to morph themselves into what it looks like you like. It is a decision for sure. However, it's not from nowhere. It didn't fall out the sky. Thank you.
But Candace, there are also men who vocalize that they want their women to dress that way, to wear her hair that way, to put her makeup on that way. And yes, it's still a choice. She doesn't have to do all that. But the brain is an interesting thing. The mind, the way it works.
So to respond to what Candace was saying, it's such thing as liking turkey, chicken, steak, shrimp. You can like different types of meat. I eat a lot of chicken. I eat chicken throughout the week. Chicken is your old lady. You know what I mean? Oh, reliable. You love it. Good enough for me. Yeah, I love me some good chicken. Lobster is what I look at on Instagram. I'm not eating this every day. I like it, but this ain't what I want. And me, my love for chicken is no less devalued by my love for lobster. That's all.
Bruh.
I don't.
That is a horrible comparison.
Terrible.
That was
terrible.
First of all,
that was so terrible because my man is gonna call me a lobster. If that's what the greatest thing to him is, I'm gonna be a lobster. I don't want to be no chicken. That other girl over there, she chicken. I don't care if you eat chicken every day. I'm lobster.
I need to understand how the sea roach, lobster, became something to look at. Like, nah, bro. Look, I understand where you're trying to go with it, but here's where I stand for you. There's a difference, Lovelace, in what catches your eye and what connects your soul. Just because something turns your head doesn't mean you want to be present with it on a regular basis. There's a whole lot of shiny objects out there, and it's not hard to get distracted. But it doesn't mean that that's necessarily something that you want to be in a space with. And I find myself concerned about those that are extremely drawn to those that have a image that they're trying to keep, and they make their living off of projecting that image, and we find ourselves eating it up. I find myself concerned about it, but for the chicken to the lobster to the steak piece, I don't know, big dog. Like, yeah, that don't sit well.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just creating content here, but on a
I know
serious
you was
note,
adamant.
But he's onto something. It's that also didn't come from nowhere, and he is also not alone.
no, but I think that on to what Wayne was saying is there's things that you can look at and there's things that you can actually live with, and I can like a Lamborghini. Here I go with another bad reference. I could like a Lamborghini, but I'm not trying to drive that every single day, and not from the sense that we're getting into the value of cars, which is better. I talk about which is better for me, which is more valuable for me. When I bought my truck, I was in between buying a two-door luxury car or a truck. And I said, what the hell usefulness does this small car have for me? With my truck, I can move stuff around. I can keep stuff in the back if I need it. If I end up in a situation where I'm supposed to stay with somebody and they get drunk and don't answer the phone, I can sleep on my back seat because it's plenty long enough and I keep a blanket back there. You know what I mean? So like you get what works for you, and what might be of high value to one person may not be high value to another. So I'm here with you. I'm investing my time. I'm investing my space. I'm investing my resources with you from coming from someone like me. That's the sign that this is what I like. This is the look that I like. Like I like a little extra something around here, a little stretch mark, a little say like ain't nothing wrong with those imperfections, but that doesn't mean that if Meg the Stallion posting some knees challenge that I can't just like that too. But I don't want to live with that. Like that shit's annoying. It's good for this small space that I'm in. Like, oh yeah, hey, huh, but not for this real life that I'm actually trying to live.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. I know it comes down to preference, and I want to try to avoid the comparison thing. I just know for me, I don't prefer to be with the woman that is going to have to take out of the 24-hour day, 1 hour putting on the devil's paint and then another hour taking it off so she can rescue my pillows. Like, I don't, that's my preference though. I don't need 2 hours a day of you hiding yourself and then revealing yourself at the end. Like, I'm good. You can just, I prefer what I call natural raw in my presence. But that's preference.
All right. So, Candace, to your apology. Oh, hold on. Before we get to your apology, I got a question. Back to your robot dream, and I think we missed it. Now, you said you woke up in somebody's bed that you hadn't been with, you hadn't dated.
I said house.
House. Sorry. Forgive me. Now, you woke up in someone's house. Now, is that someone's house that you feel like you may need to be in, or is that somebody who's been on your mind, or somebody that you may should reach out to because you woke up in their house and maybe there's a home for y'all to build together?
Nah.
What room of the house did you wake up in?
I feel like I was in a closet.
Oh.
Like it was somewhere dark and kind of enclosed. Like
he just pull you out when you're ready to show you up.
See what I'm talking about? It was a real random person too. Like somebody who, like it did the fact that I woke up in his house in his closet don't even fit what I know of his character. So I don't know what that was.
That dream about just being present and not having control of yourself sounds a lot like another version of sleep paralysis to me.
And it don't sound like what I know of your character either, Candace. I ain't hiding or stuck in the closet. That sounds wild and out of control.
I was as good. I was a robot. I was as good as a
Roomba. A whole Roomba.
Right. But I was getting out. I was getting out though. I really was.
By direction or by yourself?
It was by myself. I had finally been able to break the robot spell, and I was on escape plan immediately. I was actually surprised to have been in his house. I was like, why am I here? And then I left. Made more interesting. Never mind.
We running for stuff now?
No, I just don't. Just made more interesting by the fact that I didn't have any sort of like interaction with him in school. I mean, like, except saying hello.
That's a lot of you got a lot of admirers that you ain't had much interaction with, Candace.
Hey, we're gonna run from that topic right now.
Yeah,
What the next thing you was about to say?
Nah, I didn't have anything important. No, we can talk about that topic about Candace and her admirers.
We ain't going to that next time.
Boy, nah, we ain't doing that. You hell, get out of here.
We ain't got time for that.
Let's talk about Candace's apology.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to give two disclaimers. The first disclaimer is I would love to hear what Kariki's perspective is on this before y'all's, if she would like to share before y'all. The second one is that this apology is from me and not from all the females. So,
from who? Not from who?
The females.
Oh wow, interesting.
Very. I don't remember what the post was that we saw that prompted this apology. It was something that was, if anybody remembers, just say something. There was something about, it was like a meme, but it was a pretty egregious statement by a woman who essentially, it looked to me, wanted a man to have done something for her consistently, but she had not at all let him in on the fact that it was something that she desired or would be helpful to her. And she was pretty much prepared to just like cancel him and put him off to the side on account of that. It was very egregious though. Like it wasn't that basic. It was something that was like, and then F him and all of y'all because of this. I shouldn't have to say, pretty much. It was not only that the meme existed, but also the comments were like it ended up having to be that the comments were disabled because there were so many of people responding with exactly, yes, right, exactly. And even some dudes underneath, period, poo. And even some dudes underneath being like, yeah, you shouldn't have to go through this. But it just didn't feel like you shouldn't have to go through this situation to me, only because she had been overt about the fact that I'm not telling a dude to do this for me. And it wasn't like a basic thing either. So anyway, my thought when I saw it was there really is a culture in a lot of space, not just in women's space, but in men's space, where some of us have been taught that men are supposed to do certain things for us without us having to say so, or without us having to express our desires or our feelings around a thing. And I just, for once, thought about how that might feel from the male perspective, and I felt bad about it because I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want the expectation that I was doing something that I didn't know was desired of me to be done. And then not only was I held accountable for it in like a conversation that was ongoing, but I also was like completely wiped off the mat because I didn't do it and I didn't know. Like I didn't even have a chance to come back from it. And all the females were canceled too because I didn't do this thing. So I have some ideas culturally about where that idea that men should do certain things comes from without women's explanation. But I would like to apologize for the time that I believe I might have carried on some of that idea consciously or subconsciously without being willing or desiring to converse about it or explain anything that might be helpful. I think there are lots of other options in how to converse and how to get a point across and even how to respond, up to and including, at the very minimum, communication about this didn't work for me so that we can figure out what to do from there. But just canceling somebody entirely for doing that, I think as a person, period, is not cool. And it looks to me like it happens in y'all's space a lot of time. Just in the particular dynamic between a woman you might be romantically interested in and yourself. So there are many things like this. I think that men also, unfortunately, ways men respond to women that are similarly unhelpful. But this is a thing that I definitely saw from the other side.
So I think it's unfair. That's the first thing I'm going to say. It's unfair that someone would expect someone else to know what they want without expressing it verbally that they want that thing. I mean, and then canceling them because they didn't give them that thing. I don't think that that's fair. One, we weren't all raised in the same house. So you can't expect that how this man or woman was raised to be the same as how maybe your brother was raised. And your dad said you need to do these things for a woman. And then also for a woman, like, what if I don't want those things that your dad told you that a woman needs or wants? And then also, I wouldn't want someone to have expectations that I'm going to do certain things because I'm a woman, when I wouldn't say that I'm the traditional, woman. Like, I don't do those traditional things that someone may want me to do unless they tell me out of their mouth, like, I like when you do this. So I don't think it's fair for someone to just cancel someone if they didn't know. I mean, for those of us who go to therapy, it is very encouraged that you use your words and say, I would like this. I like when you do this. Or something simple, like, I like flowers. I like when you bring me flowers all the time. Like, don't just bring me flowers on Valentine's Day. I like flowers every Friday. Like, say that. People won't know that that's what you want unless you actually say that. How am I supposed to know that you want that? How would I know that you don't like to pump your gas or wash your car? I'm speaking from the man side. How do I know that you don't like to take the trash out? Like, I don't know that if you don't say something. I don't think it's fair. And it's very important, therapy plug, that everyone go to therapy and get these tools to use in their toolbox. I think it will help with a lot of relationships and communication, because that's where it ends. If you can't communicate that you want something or that you don't like something, then maybe you just aren't ready to be in a relationship at all with anybody. That's all I have for now. I would like to apologize too, though, because I do know in my younger age, I had expectations that some people were supposed to do things for me, and I never verbalized any of that. So I apologize.
Since we on the apology tour, Wayne, Chew, y'all got some apologies over there? Y'all want to get off?
Hell nah, I ain't apologizing for nothing. The end.
I'm good.
It's okay. The apologies was offered unto you, so you could just receive it if you please.
Oh yeah,
Now that,
yes.
ladies,
Oh yeah.
I do appreciate you sharing your insights and how those things have been made known unto you. I appreciate those thoughts. And KP, I'm sure that those people that walked in your path during that time frame, if they stumble across Big Baby's pod, they will appreciate that as well.
Send them
Chu,
the
I'm gonna
link.
let you converse first.
No, you got it. I'm just sitting back on this.
Adam, you don't want to bite yet?
I mean, for one, I think it's noble and honorable to have two women here apologizing, unprovoked, by the way. Because there's another social media running joke that women don't apologize, which I think is nonsense. It's not been my experience. Maybe I've been around some nice women, some women who were in touch with themselves. Maybe they went to therapy or something. Because I've had a fair share of women apologize to me for things that they did or didn't do, and so on. But yeah, I, thanks for the apology, Candace, because I tell you what, when I was younger in life, moving, shaking out here in these streets, trying to figure shit out, it's like, hey, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't tell me what you want, you don't tell me what you need, you don't tell me like this bothers you, I'm not gonna know to stop it. I'm not Miss Cleo. I don't read minds. I don't do tarot cards. I can't tell you what your energy is. You know what I mean? On the 14th day of the lunar polar eclipse and all of that shit. But all I can do is go off of what you tell me and what you respond to. So if you are still here occupying my space and allow me into your space, that means that whatever I'm doing is good enough to want you to keep coming back. So I'm going to continue carrying myself in that way. But if all of a sudden something bothers you and then you just want to like cut something off, I think it's just immature, and it takes us into this I can love you to death and never speak to you again. Can you? Like is that loving? Do you truly love that individual to death, or do they just have a place in your heart? You know what I mean?
I think that's where it stems from. It stems from I respect you as a person. I appreciate who you are. I admire you. However, there are certain things that I expect and demand of you that you are not capable of presenting. Therefore, with all the love for the things that you do bring to the table, I'm going to have to remove myself from your presence. I think that's a part of it. But that's also feeding into the relearning love conversation that we got to put some time into.
What is love? I
Are you,
think
go ahead.
I think that we use the word love so loosely, right? And we generalize. It's a general term that has so many different meanings because the love that you have for friends and the love that you have for family and the love that you have for a significant other is so different, but you're using the same word. And we all we all view love differently, even though it may mean the same thing to us, right? So let me see. So you may use love as your word to separate your feelings for people, right? So the people that you feel most strongly about, you love. But how is it that you love, and what is your expectation for what love is? Because you can meet someone else who y'all share the same strong feelings and love for each other, but the way in which you carry out those actions are totally different, and to have you feeling or to have them feeling as if the love isn't there because they're judging you off of their definition of love instead of your definition of love.
So, yeah, we stand in agreement in reference to some of the things that could be a divide and the perception that's on there. The idea of love in the English language is very different than it is in, as some will allude to, the Greek language and the original love languages, and even in Latin. We in our form of English language, we don't have a lot of words pertaining to love, but there are other languages that do, that describe your brotherly love, your familial love, your erotic love. Um, to say what it is in a nutshell is a daunting task, because there are things that I might describe as an emotion or an affection towards someone that isn't necessarily what I would consider love. Case in point, for Gervais, for Adam, I admire and respect your opinions. your stance, your journeys, your upbringing, how you all handle yourselves in conversations when you walk in the rooms, your personality, your energy. I admire and I respect those things. I can admire and respect those things without necessarily loving them. However, some would argue that you cannot love something without admiration and respect. So my battle as I try to identify love in the traditional English sense is it requires an abundance of words just to make it make sense.
Yeah, I think that the word love in the English language, we use it for so many different things. You can quickly say, I love food or I love a movie, but do you really love it or you just like strongly like it, you know? And then I think for love, everyone has their own personal definition of what it is, and not everybody actually knows what that is for themselves. So it's a big question. What is love? And it's something that everybody has to figure out, I think, on their own. What does love look like to you? Like, what are your expectations for love? And what are you going to give to other people? What level of love are you going to get? Candace and I had this conversation on Thursday. That was what my whole Bible study was about that I
I
taught.
was just about to say.
So weird. So basically, that's what I asked everybody to do is like go home this week and figure out what your personal definition of love is, because it's different, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, and I think
If you
another
don't
thing with
mind,
that,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna ask KP if you don't mind when y'all do that return thing, if that's something that other humans can jump in on for eavesdropping purposes. I'd love to be a part of it.
All are welcome in the kingdom.
But yeah, I'll say another thing along the lines of that, us figuring out what is love. A lot of times we gotta understand or get a good idea of, knowing that a lot of things that we think we love are actually like bad addictions. Some people say they love food, but it's past love to it. The way you're using it is unhealthy. And you can say that for relationships, you can say that for weed, alcohol, a lot of different things. For social media, you think you love it, but you're probably addicted to it. So you really gotta understand, is it love or is it something that you're addicted to and that's actually harmful to you?
Yeah,
You
I
struck
like
a
where you're going with that conversation. Go ahead, Adam.
I don't really have anything for it because I'm starting to think like you start thinking about people's relationships now, right? Like specifically where they quote unquote love each other, but they treat each other like shit, but they keep coming back. And it is an addiction. And then it kind of triggered me a little bit because I used to refer to myself as crack. I'm good to you, but I'm awful for you.
I
Well, you
think
have.
you just spoke a reverse word to yourself.
I mean, it's where I was at in life. I mean, it wasn't wrong. But nonetheless, I think the love versus addiction conversation is an important conversation because how often do we really think of stuff that way? Like, oh, I'm addicted to this person, or you hear the jokes like I'm addicted to the dick, or I'm addicted to the pussy. You know what I mean? Like you hear people say it, but then you don't really like look at it and evaluate it as a addiction, like a toxic addiction, like addiction, like fame, attention, drugs, gambling, whatever that case may be. We don't think about it like that, but we have these toxic addictions to people. And is there really rehab for that?
I feel like an early rehab step is exactly what, like Kariki said, we're doing as an activity in her Bible study with Rooted Wellness this week. I think it's helpful to figure out what your definition of love is, not necessary. And I know that exercise is going to be different for everybody, but I just think it's determining what your definition of love is may be different from what your definition of love should be. So if you're really honest with yourself um, about doing that exploration, what is my definition of love? Like if you really take that seriously, you can come up with like a lot of things may reveal themselves to you as perhaps actually addictions um, rather than things that describe love. I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so we just talked about food here. We talked about food there in Bible study too, right? You asked the question, Kariki, what's your favorite food? And then what feeling does it give you? And then why do you feel like that when you eat the food? Like, and I think about doing the exploration of what your definition of love is like that. My definition of love is people speaking kindly to me. Why? What does that make you feel like when they do that? I feel respected. Okay, that sounds pretty healthy. My definition of love is someone um, texting me they get home every night. What do I feel when that happens that I like? I feel validated. There might be more questions there. Maybe the validation is fair. Maybe it's a little, I don't know. And I think you can feel that if you really get into the activity and maybe even like involve somebody in asking for their help.
And then we also talked about like what benefit, what like when if you love something or somebody, is there some benefit that you're getting? Are you only loving them because you get something in return? Like, is that your true definition of love because you're getting something in return, or do you just love them as they are?
Yeah.
I think every relationship that we have with people, we get something in return for it. And if we didn't get anything in return from that relationship, we wouldn't have the relationship because it would make absolutely no sense. And it's a kind of a cruel way to put relationships, but you get something out of it. If we didn't get anything out of having conversations together, we wouldn't have the conversations. Whether it's the love that we receive from the people, whether it's the information that we receive from the people, whether it's the status that we receive from the people, whether it's the physical feelings that we get from those people, whatever it is, every relationship has a something I we all gain something from relationships. Now, do we need what we're getting from that relationship? That's another question. But we are all in all of our relationships are self-interested, even if we don't have our best self-interest at heart.
Well said, young fella. Well said.
So what's next on the list? What I want to talk
You act like you trying to preach a little bit, I feel.
No, no, no. I can't come from the pulpit with this cup. That wouldn't be right. So another thing about relationships, it was some post that I saw, and I think it was one that Candace wanted to talk about too. She pretty much drove this whole segment here. You disrespect yourself when you rekindle a relationship that humiliated you. And to open it up, for me, it depends on who you're looking to please and what matters to you. Because do I think that retreads on relationships typically work? No, but it's not because one person one person's inability to change, or but I look at it as, are you going to forgive the events that caused the relationship to end when you go back into it? Are you going to be able to give this person the benefit of the doubt that they lost in a previous relationship? Are you going to give them grace? Are you going to understand the growth that may have occurred while you weren't in their life? And if you are going to give that person a fair chance, and that person and you yourself have done the adequate work to make that relationship work and function for you, no, it's not embarrassing. But if it's just, we're going to take a 3-month pause just so he can go soil his royal oats, or she can just go do what she needs to do, and there's no actual healing process, no growth done, then yeah, you embarrassing yourself because you just doing something that ain't gonna work.
I feel you. I think embarrassment, the idea behind it is external opinions looking into your life.
Well, fuck them. They don't live in the house. They don't pay the bills. They don't make me happy. You don't pay my bills. You don't give me thrills. Then what the hell are you talking about? You know what I
Ooh,
mean?
ooh. Okay, I like this game. Let's go with it. However, I validate your existence by giving you my opinion. I tell you the things that are important, and I allow you to understand that the things that are happening around us, they're not just you, they impact others, and that person that you keep going back to, it makes the group look bad, Adam.
Well, hell, that's y'all's problem. Kick me out the group because if that person makes my home happy, where I need to get my inner peace, y'all can go to hell because I'm happy at home.
But Adam, you're not happy at home. You keep coming here sharing it with us, and it's all bad.
Yeah.
This is all fictitious.
Yeah. This is all fictitious.
Okay.
Home as happy as can be, you know.
But like, yes, I feel embarrassment is external. And I think that we need to talk about that. Then why is everything in the relationship so outwardly facing for everyone to have an opinion? Because you're only humiliated and embarrassed when everybody knows your business. So I think we need to unpack that. Like, why is a person telling everybody their business or letting everyone into their relationship?
I think because it's cheaper than therapy. It's easier for me to sit down with my unlicensed friend whose opinion I respect and get their insights about a situation or a scenario, and then use that as if it was actually valuable to me to progress and grow than it is for me to keep things internal and communicate effectively. And when I say communicate, it's not just say words, transition, point A, point B, words. It's make sure that there's a comprehension of things that are being presented from both parties involved. It's easier for me to look at my circle, pick up my phone, hit AC, hit chew, and say, hey, man, these are my thoughts. And that's the challenge that's there with keeping things private is you have people that you want to bounce ideas off of. And sometimes those opinions are important and sometimes they shouldn't be.
Ooh, like telling your mama.
Yeah, that's top 10 people I don't tell anything to right there. Whole neighborhood know the situation.
That's one thing I was about to say. It's important to have, like, I know if I bring something to y'all, it's not gonna be y'all taking my side. It's gonna be the truth or your truth. But I don't. If I bring something to you, I'm not expecting you to always take my side because I know I'm not right in every situation. Probably more situations than I'm wrong more in more situations than I am right. But um, a lot of people is they just got that they got that comfort with other people because they're gonna tell them what they want to hear, and that's not that's not gonna work in any relationship or with any relationship or just conversation period.
And you got I think the one thing about talking about certain things, because we do have the people in our lives who we share things to who aren't licensed, sometimes just to get it off your chest, sometimes to get feedback, and you just say some things out loud and you hear it differently. But you also have to know the people who you can share that with, give you who will give you their truth, but will also not judge in that relationship. Like the person who will say, "Yeah, bro, you tripping by going back to her because you know how she is, and if you want to put up with that, at the end of the day, you grown. I'm gonna let you put up with what you want to put up with, but I'm gonna tell you put up with some bullshit." You need those people in your life because you don't want to have the person who then forges this builds this grudge against somebody who you're keeping around for reasons that you gave because you gave them information or whatever, but they're holding a grudge that you've well gotten over, which is why I don't tell people things to where I care if there's a grudge going to be there, if I care how they truly feel about that person's existence in my life.
Yeah, I think it's fair to have a level of privacy and respect of matters pertaining to people when you have a common circle, to prevent opinions from being formed from a one-sided conversation.
Yeah, that's why you don't mix circles. You have a bunch of different circles out here, and you keep everything separate, right?
I would argue you probably shouldn't date in your circle either, but we can spin that
Huh?
one up. So I will argue we probably shouldn't date in our circle either, but we can spin that up.
Oh yeah, nah, I don't believe in dating in the circle because not even just dating in the circle. I mean my friend circle, my close friend circle. I don't believe in dating in my close friend circle, and I definitely don't believe in sexual relations in the friend circle in which there is ambiguity to what the relationship is, because when you have a fucking inside the friend circle, stuff gets really weird because you don't know who you can invite sometimes, because it's like, shorty gonna be here, like, I don't know, you bring in so and so, like, now we gotta start thinking about just dinner and stuff because of what y'all had going on, and are y'all gonna be cool today? Are y'all gonna be tripping? If she show up with some new dude, or we all go out and somebody hollering at her, you gonna be in your feelings now just because of y'all's old? Ain't nobody got time for all that extra shit to be thinking when it 1,000 fish in the sea. Just go find, just go play around in somebody else's a school of fish instead of your own.
I'm gonna be an advocate again. I'm gonna do that devil's advocacy thing. But that's where the bonds are formed. When you're in the common spaces, you're hanging out. That's where you manifest that relationship, where you sit in that space with that person and y'all have detailed conversations. And through those conversations, what ends up happening is your interest is piqued because you get insights into how they carry themselves in various dynamics, and that is alluring. So if they don't find ourselves interested, or if we don't find ourselves interested in spaces or in the people that's in our circle all the time, where do we find the person at, bro? Like at some point, that divide is tough. But if you're not sharing that space with the people and building the bond that way, we were friends first, the opportunities are limited because the idea of dating strangers outside of an app is foreign. Like you don't, there's very few people that can walk up to someone on the street and have the charisma to convince them to go out on a date.
Well, I feel like if you're gonna date in a friend circle, you just gotta remove yourself from the friend circle once y'all start dating.
You gotta do what?
Just back away from the friend circle.
He said, remove yourself from the circle.
Mm.
And then
Both people should remove themselves from the circle.
no, on a serious note, I just think you have to create parameters within that group so that they understand shit, and then that you and your partner, more specifically, understand how you're going to carry yourself when you have mutual friends and stuff. Because if you find yourself in a breakup space where there's mutual friends, you may be operating you may be operating mutual spaces before you have done the healing that you may have wanted to do before you occupied space with that person. So you just have to make an understanding within you two that, you know you the information that you're comfortable being out if you plan to still move in that circle. Now if you say fuck this circle, I ain't gonna be around y'all no way, then disclose whatever and not care about what size people in the circle choose when the breakup happens. Because 9 times out of 10 they're gonna pick sides. People aren't gonna necessarily be able to separate. Hey, that's their business. That has nothing to do with the relationship that I have with this individual.
I feel you. When you said that word healing, I think it triggered me, and I wanted to add that to my list of words that needs to be banned. But we'll pick that up another time.
What's wrong with healing, Wayne?
We gonna have to, cause you gonna get a lot of argument from me on that one.
Yeah.
Here we go. So for the idea of healing, I think people say it, but they have no intent. Correction. I perceive no intention of actually growing or attempting to grow through that conversation based on their actions and behaviors. We use the language of I'm trying to heal, but in reality, the steps that I would consider healing look nothing like the actions that person is taking.
I think that people are confused and that they probably don't understand that it takes time. I think that we live in a society that wants everything to happen very quickly. You know, we have microwaves and instant pots, and everything happens so fast. We have the internet. And when they use the word healing, I don't think that they understand. I don't think that, I think there's a group of people who do not understand that it's going to take a while. And you're going to have to do this work for a very long time because you're basically trying to invoke change in yourself. And you've been this way for a while. So, yeah. I like the word healing, but I think people need to probably understand it a little bit more.
I agree with you. The part that particularly stands out to me about what you just said, Kariki, is the time aspect. And particularly you're pointing out something like if you're doing something different that has been a part of your life for a very long time, it's going to take a long time. It would be reasonable for it to take a while to heal through that. If I'm trying to heal from something that's been going on in my space for 20 years, I may not be appearing to be moving very far to you by the third or fourth year, but it's been in my life for 20 years. So it could take me years to be able to evolve in a way where it looks to you like something different has happened to me. And I think, though I understand what you're saying, Wayne, my concern with the particular words you use, which I don't think most people are as conscious of when they use them, is what you doing don't look like healing to me. But you can't say that. People, like all people in by and large, you can have that to say, but you can't know what healing looks like for me. Part of healing for me could be blowing up in a conversation one day and then the next day having resolution or offering apology in a different conversation. It could all be a part of the healing process. It will not be me personally healing through something will not be me seated in the corner in meditative state for 3 months and then come out gold. And if that's what you're expecting, then you might, like discover yourself in some different space because we're not going to be able to convene while I heal through something. So you would have to give me better rationale than the actions that people take don't look like the ones you would associate with healing in order for me to cancel that word.
2 weeks ago, conversation. Said any person, I'm trying to get over this relationship. All right, cool. What steps are you taking? Well, I'm going to book a flight and I'm going to fly out there to have a conversation with this person. Okay. Where are you staying at? Oh, I'm staying at their house. The one bedroom? Yeah, the one bedroom. I'm staying there. So you're going to fly out. You're going to stay at the one bedroom and you're going to sit in that space and y'all are going to heal and recover as y'all prepare to separate yourselves from one another. Yes, that's what we're going to do. To Wayne, that doesn't look like healing. To Wayne, that looks like you're putting yourself back in a space to get cut again.
Sometimes people's healing process includes them getting cut again.
Sounds great, boss. I'm just telling you, as a non-expert in the healing category, I would say that's probably not a space that you should sit in right now.
It might
But
not
that'd
be
be
a
it.
space you should sit in. It might not be a space you should sit in, but you still may end up there on your journey to healing. It's a journey, not a exit strategy. Everyone's healing plan is not a strategy. Maybe it should be more strategic, but it's not always like that.
And
Also,
it's go ahead, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, I also think that there's a difference between people that you speak to or see all the time that's healing, and then someone that may have gone away for a while. So I know someone who I haven't spoken to in years who went through a, tumultuous time, and that person is very different now. But then I also know people who went through a tumultuous time and they're still working on those things. And every once in a while, I'm like, dang, that person is a little teensy bit different now. It takes a long time. And if you see them all the time, you might not notice it. Just like if someone's losing weight, you're not going to notice that that person is losing weight if you see them every day. But maybe you'll go on vacation for 2 weeks and then come back and be like, dang, that person is small. So I think that healing, like, it just depends on who it is.
So does it get to a point to where we have to put pressure on people to heal? Because I think there are people who enjoy being in pain and they don't move towards the healing that they need.
I'm not licensed, bro, so I can't call it. Here's what I can say though. You only have so many times to call me and talk to me about your situation before I say, hey, man, I'm not your therapist. You need to go get some professional assistance, because what I'm going to tell you to do, it may devastate you even more. So I can't call it. Here's what I do know. If I were you, I don't think that I would do that, which is not necessarily helpful for those that are going through their various stages of healing.
I don't think it's not necessarily helpful. I just don't think it necessarily will always resonate immediately. If it is helpful, you may never know that it was helpful, and or you may not hear about it being helpful until way later. Because just because you have something reasonable and could be very helpful to say doesn't mean that someone is available to receive it yet. And I just think there's a difference between how you aid someone in their healing and how the person actually heals. You only have responsibility over the part that is yours. So, like you said, Wayne has boundaries, which I think is helpful for someone who is assisting through healing. Hey, we gonna talk about this a few times. I said this the first time we talked. I'm willing to say this to you a couple more times. This is the last time I'm going to say that this is what I would not do if I were you. This is my real sound rationale. Do what you must. And this is what I'm saying to you. So it's not necessarily a forcing through healing. It's definitely standing in your integrity in someone else's healing, though, I think. This is the person I am, and therefore the friend I am. This is what I have to offer. On the other hand, you, in your own journey that I trust you in, take what you will take right now and do with it what you will. And I will make decisions whether I will still be present with you while you go through this. And you can make decisions whether you'll still be with me while you go through it as well, if there's too much difference in how we feel. I just don't think necessarily the difference, I don't think the difference in feeling or thought about how something should go necessitates, can't talk, separation. Or I think the only reason why you would try to force somebody to go through something is if you need to hurry up and get out the room, but they're not gonna go through it, and you trying to make sure that you can stick around with them. The only way I can stay here with you is if you get through this the way that I want you to do it without me having to make any decisions that I'm going to change my posture here. If you don't got to do that, you don't need to rush nobody through nothing. You can just be you, and they can be they can be them.
That's very true. And I think part of my self-awareness through it all is I don't like putting a lot of time into the same action. So we discussed it, we identified it by nature. I consider myself what I describe as a problem solver, and see it, hear it, observe it, act on it, execute, push forward. Not good for everybody. Don't try
No.
it. 1 out of 10, highly not recommended. But for myself and even our brother Antonio, that's one of the conversations we have, and one of the reasons why we click so well. That's how we live. We see it, we observe it, we process it, we action it, we push forward. But that's a self-awareness thing.
Yeah, and I think a good point from earlier was when we were talking about time and not rushing some things. And I think that there's a group of people, and we hit on it a little bit on a different topic, who are just really in a rush to get to where they're going, and they're not appreciating the journey. Don't get me wrong. I think we all have goals and aspirations that we want to achieve, and hopefully there's some out there that we haven't achieved yet that we're still pushing towards. And would it be nice to have to be where you may want to be in the future sooner than you plan? Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's important to enjoy the journey, and embrace the ups and the downs, because what are we in a rush to get there for? Like what? And then what happens when you actually get there? Like, I feel like you got to enjoy living life and not just live a great life and then you die, if that makes any sense. Like, enjoy the process while it's happening. But leads me to a question: are super aspirational people insecure?
Let's surrender that one to KP.
What do you mean by super aspirational? What does that mean?
If you have a lot of gold, if you want to be the best of the best, if you want to dominate your industry and in whatever it is that you do, are you insecure? Are you not comfortable within the person that you are to let your work stand on itself? Or is it that you have to make sure that you reach the top of everything to validate who you are to other people and maybe even to yourself?
I think I lost you for a second, but can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, I think I lost a huge portion of what you said, but um, I think that it depends. I think a lot of people grew up in households that kind of made kids who grew up to be adults feel like they have to do that. That's number one. So there could be some insecurity there. Yes. I think that you have people that don't have anything else going on, and maybe their career is all they have going on, and they just put their all into that. So there could be some insecurity there. And then you have people who just, that's just them, and I don't necessarily think they're insecure. I think that they're just used to doing that, and now they do. I don't think that they're necessarily insecure. Now, I will say that I come across people very often who step on other people's toes to get to those high aspirations, and I absolutely think those people are insecure. I don't think that it's necessary. I think, yes, your work should speak for itself. And I think that people will see you for who you are and what you stand for and how well your work is if you're just authentic. But I think if you are stepping on other people and not showing up your authentic self, then yeah, you might have some insecurity. I probably have a lot more thoughts on this, but I'm gonna just let it sit for a second.
Candace, did you want to crack before I started running my mouth? So for me, Adam, it's a character thing, right? It's no issue with having huge aspirations. There's no issue or no concern with wanting to be the best at your craft, the most wealthy. None of those things are issues. I would hope that for most people they pursue a level of excellence. So I'm good with the aspirational side of it. The only thing that I am concerned about from the insecurity bracket is what drives it. What is it, and at what length, how much of your character and how much of you as a person are you willing to sacrifice in order to obtain? How many are you going to step on? How many small businesses are you going to destroy in order to get to your destination? Or is there not enough space in your mind for everyone to eat or for everyone to grow? Is that one of the things that is driving you to be there? Or do you sit on the side of the coin where I just know that what I have and what I'm offering is the best on the market, and I believe that people deserve the best. Therefore, I'm going to push to destroy the competition in order to offer the best for the people. For me, it's about your character and what's driving your intent.
Hmm. Because I think about the easy I guess parallel for me is looking at athletes and how they have that chip on their shoulder, and how some of the best we praise them for having that chip and using that chip and some real doubt and some fake doubt, and turning that into motivation to continue to do the things that others won't do, to dominate. And then I go, are you just not secure enough in your abilities and your work ethic that you can go out and be the best of the best because of what you do, as opposed to listening to the instead of using the outside noise as a means to boost your motivation?
I think for a lot of in the athlete realm, I think it's about legacy. There's not an athlete that goes into the league with a high level of expectation that I can think of that isn't like the Hall of Fame would be nice. Like I can't think of any of them that are like, if I get to the Hall of Fame, I'm not going to accept it. There's few and far between that come in thinking that way. So for those in the athlete realm, it's about legacy. It's I want to make sure that people know that I showed up, I worked hard, I gave my best efforts, and I want this name that's on the back of my jersey to go in history as a person that did better than anyone else. I don't think it's an insecurity thing. I think it's a matter of this is what I want my legacy to be.
Okay, sorry, I was reading some really weird YouTube comments. Um, what stifles your innovation?
My innovation or innovation in general. I can go with innovation in general. I am not what people would call a creator. That's not my personality. I'm more of a execution person. Like you present the idea, you present the concept, you came up with everything. Okay, let me get it there. Let me be the engineer to help take it to where you want to take it to. But I'm not a person that is coming up with brilliant ideas. But I think when I presented this conversation to you, I was looking at the state of the nation. And I think over our time, we have historically become the most innovative when our existence was at peril. I think you look at the World War I, World War II timeframes; those are the times where we really dug in and started coming up with major concepts in reference to computer engineering and things in that nature that now we can't see life without. But back then, those are the times that we really were like, oh, okay, we need something to get us to the next level in order to prevent from falling off of the face of the world. But as far as the innovation piece goes, I think that's where my thoughts were with it.
I think it's interesting where the thought for the conversation came from in you, Wayne, because my initial reaction to just seeing the question is I think I want to say that what stifles my innovation is restraint. Um, so typically, I prefer to be kind of like free with time, free with space to be able to feel as creative as I can. And I think I come up with a lot of good ideas in open space or space that just feels free to me. But then on the other hand, usually what, if I'm being honest with myself, has to take place in order for me to press out whatever I have come up with in the way of innovation. It has to be some sort of external force that says, that might feel like restraint. Like like a deadline is technically a restraint. The time is now, right? So it's like trying to find, for me it has felt over the years like trying to find a balance between accountability, another type of possible restraint for people, and then also freedom in thought and creativity. Um, so yeah, I would agree that our perils in this country have usually produced innovation from people, when we needed to figure out a way through something and we had very few options.
Yeah, I would say for me, what stifles my innovation, I would say that I'm 50% creative, 50% execution. So I come to the table with the somewhat creativity, but I need to bounce those ideas off of someone else who's 100% creative in order for me to execute that, because I don't have all the tools in my toolbox, nor do I necessarily know where to go looking for them. So I need someone who is only a creative to be like, yep, do that, do that. That's great, before I actually execute what it is. So what stifles my innovation is when that person that's 100% creative is not available. Like if that tool is not available to me, then I'm just back off for a while until it is available to me.
So, do you think that's something that you'll ever be comfortable operating without?
Um, I think I'm going to have to get to a point where I'm able to do it on my own. I think that for me, I grew up in kind of like a sheltered atmosphere, so I always had, mom to help me, and then I was released into the world and it's like, oh, I don't think I can do this without someone else, and as an adult, I still do that. So I think I'm healing. And it takes time because I've been doing it my entire life. So it's just going to take me a while.
I can totally understand that because I come from a place of creativity not really being a thing. It's find something 9 to 5, ping, ping, ping. You know what you're getting paid every 2 weeks. You know where you got to go every day, and very routine. And I don't know where I fall on this mix of creative and get her done, but I'm way more creative than I am on the other side of thing because I boundary structure that's not me. Let's just get. I mean, we'll get stuff done when we get it done, but yeah, I don't like structure. But I think what stifles my innovation the most is comfort. Like if I'm comfortable, whether it's comfortable in what I'm doing, comfortable at home, comfortable in like my friendship groups, comfortable potting. If I get too comfortable doing anything, then my innovation goes to hell. So for better or for worse, I seek places of discomfort. And it's something I've talked to my therapist about because we're plugging therapists here, is that I seek places for discomfort, um because I want to be innovative all the time. So I don't ever want to be too comfortable and not be innovative, because I found myself in a space of entirely too much comfort and realizing there are things that were important to me that I kind of let go. And it was just because shit, I'm comfortable. And once I found myself in a place of discomfort, I actually got that innovative kickback. I got that comfort in being in discomfort again. And for better or for worse, I like discomfort. I thrive in it. But
This has been a very well-rounded conversation.
well, I
I
try
just
to.
want to appreciate it. I think it's been great.
Well, we try to have those types of conversations. We gotta hit all the different corners.
King of
Uh,
content.
huh?
I said king of content.
Hey, I do what I can. But one thing that I don't even know if I talked to y'all about, or if I put it on the list. If I did, I put it up late. Trauma versus accountability. And I don't necessarily think this is a versus conversation, right? But as I'm going to pitch them that way for the sake of getting the conversation going. So Wayne, we had that conversation about the individual who suffered from some trauma, ended up like attempting to stab a significant other, and how that's being dealt with. And I said, within the context of the world that we live in today, those were two totally separate events, two different people involved. And oftentimes we won't use that trauma from years ago as a reason to explain why that event happened, when that that culminating event could be tied to the trauma. And so when we look at criminals, and I mean people who are guilty of, violent crimes that are not in retaliation to something, right? Aggressive violent crimes. Your serial, name that, murderer, rapist, thief, whatever. People who regularly do things that society deems to be improper behavior beyond the scope of survival. How much do we tie the trauma that person experienced throughout their life to their actions? Like, I think there is a level of trauma that explains why R. Kelly acts the way that he acts in life, right? But is being approached from an accountability point of view, which is the after. Is we're gonna hold you to the societal standard because you have not met it, but we're not looking at what led you to this point, and not defending R. Kelly by no means. But how do you get to the point to living that life to where you believe that what you're doing is acceptable without having a lot of trauma that led you there, untreated trauma that led
Bruh, that's a strong statement. Let me say it this way. With no accountability in reference to your inner circle, the people that are close to you and understand who you are, they're not, if you don't trust their judgment and they don't trust yours, you're not going to look at each other and have that real conversation of, hey man, you're out of line. If you don't trust that, you're not going to accept that. However, the trauma portion of it, as ignorant as it could be, I don't attribute a lot to trauma. The DSM-5 will disagree with me vehemently, but I don't attribute a lot to trauma, because we have the ability to acknowledge a situation for what it is and make a choice on our next action. Behavior, some would say, is learned, some would say it's instinctual. But throughout our traditional upbringing in this nation specifically, we get a pretty good idea of acceptable and not acceptable behaviors based on those that we're living around. We change our environment, we have a chance to change our behaviors, our perspectives, our vantage points. For the idea of trauma being the reason egregious acts are done, I struggle with that deeply. And I struggle with that because I am a own your mess type of person. I did it. It's on me, and I'm gonna take full responsibility for what I did. But that makes it hard for me to look at another situation and say they have deep rooted issues stemming from their childhood that needs to be addressed, and that's the reason why they're going through what they're going through, because it's never been addressed. I struggle with that. I understand it's valid. I understand it exists, but for me, it's a tough place to be in to say you saw that child, you asked that child to do those things to you as an adult, and you were okay with it, and your circle was okay with it. I don't blame that on his trauma. I blame that on his decisions.
Wayne, is your struggle then with the fact that as an adult, the person did not, like an R. Kelly, did not choose to address his trauma? Or is your, I understand that your issue is that he made poor decisions, right? Like, I understand something happened to you in your childhood. I understand. As an adult, this other thing happened. Maybe your trauma was connected to that. You made a poor decision still. So would you say that in some way the issue you take with that person is also in the fact that he didn't decide to deal with the trauma, so that he didn't make the later decision? I hope what I'm asking makes sense.
Your question does make sense to me, and my response to that is no. That's not the issue. I don't attribute it to age. Maturity isn't age driven, and we consider adulthood an age. I attribute it to you looked at life around you as you saw it, and whatever state of mind you were in, based on whatever occurred, and you opted to go that direction. Now, I mentioned the DSM-5 earlier because there's a lot of language in there that'll say, no, this is the reason why they did that, and because of that chemical imbalance that they are experiencing, they shut certain parts of their mind off. Therefore, they automatically do that. I understand that science that goes into it. I am a you made a choice person though, and the choice you made was piss poor, and you chose an egregious act based on your piss poor choices.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see like the versus accountability thing because um I think you're always accountable for your actions no matter if you experience trauma or not, because you always have a choice between right and wrong. And I understand that the DSM-5 says this person did this because of this, but they also had a choice between right and wrong. We always have a choice between right or wrong. I think our brain has fight and flight in it, and we are all able to shut down things because there is some trauma involved in it, and then we commit an act, whether it be good or bad. I think we sometimes don't know that we're shutting down stuff in our brain or bringing up things, and it just happens naturally. But you still have a choice. You have a moment, a split second to be like, I'm not going to do that. And I struggle with it being a versus. I think that, yeah, you can have trauma, but you have a choice to make. Are you going to do that or you're not going to do it? Because if you can get help from a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist for your issues, that means you can absolutely choose between right and wrong. If those doctors exist to help us, that means we can overcome whatever it is that we have going on in our brains that make us choose this wrong decision.
But when we talk about the decision piece, because I don't want to get away from that, I think we all do make decisions. But what are our decisions based from? They're based from our experiences. What do you draw from to make a decision? I remember someone once told me that people don't rise to the moment, they fall back to their lowest point of training or their highest point of training, some shit like that or whatever. So you fall back on on your experiences that you've been through, and what if your decision making process isn't rooted in societal right and wrong, is rooted in what you've lived. And unfortunately, what you've lived that is presented as life was is presented as right does not align with society. And then you find yourself years later making those decisions based off of your experiences that don't align with what's acceptable in society. And it's hard for me to just sit here and say that, oh yeah, he made a choice. Yes, the person made a choice, but what led up to that choice, and what do we as a society owe that person post that decision, or excuse me, prior to that decision and post that decision? And it speaks for me to a bigger conversation, a much bigger conversation, in what we're doing as far as our prison system goes. Are we punishing people, or are we trying to rehabilitate people? And I think that it takes a look at both the decision, but also the experiences that led to the decision to to come up with the best answer for addressing these situations.
Let's stir the pot, big dog. Two things can be true. You can't be held accountable for your decisions, and your decisions can be a matter of trauma. For me, depending on what your act is, if you didn't truly see it as a problem, you wouldn't have kept it private. I can't I can't attribute it to a trauma related issue if you hide what you're doing. If you're hiding your egregious behavior, the people that you describe, the rapists, the murderers, the sexual assaulters, they are hiding their behaviors. They are not doing this publicly. Outside of one prolific rapper, there are very few that are putting it in their music and broadcasting it. These are hidden acts. And we hide things when we're ashamed of them, when we don't want to make that act that we're doing a public thing because we know it impacts our bottom dollar. We know it impacts the way that we live. So we hide it. We hide, or we show that shame in scenarios where we feel there's something wrong. If I knew I was in the right, I had no issue going public and having that conversation about the right. But the fact that it's wrong, the fact that that's a child, and I asked that child to pee somewhere and do all these weird things, I knew I was wrong. Now, I look at the prison system. I can't I can't look at the prison system and expect the prison system to rehabilitate my mind or reform my mind for those deep-rooted issues, because the system isn't set up for that. The system is set up for punishment and removal from society. The system isn't set up and designed to put you back into society. It's designed to punish and remove. So I
But
don't
should it be
attribute it to the prison system.
but
Well,
should it be set up that way though?
if we see crime as a matter of mental health issues, we can go there. But not all crime is a matter of mental health. Some crime is because people just decide to do bad things for their own personal joys.
You and Adam said something that kind of intertwined that I wanted to touch on for a second. So Adam said, if this is something that you're used to seeing, right, and then you were released into society and you did it again, and then you talked about how you're hiding it because you know it's wrong. So, question: what if I grew up in a house where I saw someone doing these things all the time that were bad and hiding them? So now as a child, I think it's right to do this and hide it. And so I go out into society as an adult and now I do it and I hide it because I think hiding it is the right thing to do. Not hiding it because I know it's wrong, but hiding it because that's what I was taught to do. Now what?
It's a learned behavior, and that I understand. And it's very difficult to recover from learned patterns and learned behaviors. I still attribute it to you made a choice. to hide it. Because as you grow through life, regardless of your age, as you progress from a young child forward, you get an idea based on not just what's happening in your house, but in the rest of your circle of acceptable and not acceptable. There are a few scenarios out there where people do not have contact with society. And for those scenarios, I understand and I get it. You don't have contact with anything else. So what you see is your life. For those that do have contact with society and they do have interactions and they do have conversations and they do hear crazy things and they acknowledge them for what they are, I unfortunately continue to stand firm on you made a choice. And although you have a very traumatic past, with your very traumatic past, you made a choice to take on that egregious behavior.
I think actually everything that I've heard discussed so far makes a case that accountability is actually a very useful tool in healing from trauma. Because if we can agree that both of these things can exist, you can have a traumatic experience that makes you think it's okay to do something, but it also cannot be okay to do. And you also similarly can choose to do that thing because of your trauma, but it also could have been wrong. So you should be accountable for it. It may be that the accountability, which now has to be outside of yourself, um, is the thing that says, oh, I have to do something else. It's the thing that makes you say, oh, I have to do something else. Because I've been able to do this all this time and it has not disturbed anything I have going on. But when I'm held accountable by somebody and they say, you can't do that. this is the response that I have for you, and the response is not something that you like, then maybe there's something else that you have to consider about the action. Is this really right? I think sometimes, unfortunately, people abuse the concept that I'm speaking of, and they kind of wield it to be insensitive, to speaking, like engaging with people who are healing from trauma. But I also think that other people, and it's actually something that is really personal to me because I'm trying to be better at accountability, is there are some other people who hurt another's traumatic experience by never exacting accountability. And both of those are not okay.
I appreciate that insight. Thank you.
Yeah, man, that was super dope. That was a good spin and a good place to where I kind of wanted to go to with this conversation, because I think both exist, and there is a line of understanding where you have to understand what someone's went through as it relates to decisions that they make, but that does not necessarily strip them from having to be held accountable for those decisions, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with something, and we've all seen some things, we've all heard some things, we've had some things done to us, and it's about how we respond and react to it. And some will get there faster than others. Good for them, but eventually you have to get over what you've gone through. I don't care what it is, I don't care how bad it is. You have an existence here in life, and for you to maximize your existence, for you to do the things that you may believe that you were sent here to do, you have to get past those things and become a functional member of this society that we live in. I've got nothing else. Is there anything that y'all want to get to?
I just want to add, get over. I don't mean to say this like this because I appreciate everything you just said.
Say what you said.
I just want to add "get over" to the list of phrases to cancel.
How, explain it real quick.
Um, I think to tell someone who is healing through something or working through the dynamics of a traumatic situation or whatever, even if it's something egregious like the example that we've been using with abusing children, to get over something is dignity stripping. It is not considerate of the fact that healing is work, and hard work, and it is used as haphazardly as people used to. I don't think they do it as much now, but as people used to say something like "go kill yourself." I hated that ever came up. Like, get
That's
over
fair.
it. What do you mean? Like, what you mean get over it? What you want me to do?
Well, I guess
Jump over my lifetime trauma. Jump over
learn to live with your experiences.
And I know that's not what you meant when you said it, which is why I wanted to try, if I could, to separate them. But I want to add the common use of the term "get over" to the list of things to cancel because I actually hate it.
I stand in support with you on that statement of removing the idea of get over it from trauma related experiences. It doesn't just carry a level of insensitivity towards the individual person and the actions that they have gone through. It also speaks to the fact that when you tell a person to simply get over something, we're not talking about a river, we're not talking about a lake, we're not talking about something you just build a bridge and go away from. We're speaking towards something that is ingrained in a person in the most shocking of ways, and it requires us to really put some energy into progression to kind of uproot what it is that has been sown and taken life in the mind of the person. So I'm with you on that one, Candace.
For sure. It's just, and I think all of us is, I hope all of us is healing through something. But for those of us who are being very intentional about healing through something and have been any time, like you recognize that illustration that Wayne just painted as being very present.
Lord, send you healing.
Don't.
Well, chill. We're wrapping it up right now. Glad you could join us for the wrap up. Was there anything you'd like to add?
Nah, y'all got it.
Kariki, go ahead and make sure you plug your pages.
So come to Rooted Wellness Co _ at on Instagram. We do a couple of stuff there. We do wellness challenges. We do Bible study on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. We do Bible in 1 year, and we do private yoga sessions. So whatever you need, all are welcome.
How much for the private yoga sessions?
$30 for 30 minutes, or if you would like several sessions, we can discuss a discount.
All right, we're gonna have to get you back to talk specifically about Rooted Wellness, not with all these other people out here giving their opinions on life and stuff, because people actually care to hear that shit. You plugging anything, Wayne?
No.
Follow Bose the Frenchie. Anything else, Candace? All right, go ahead. Tell us about your podcast one more time.
Again?
Just real quick. Just tell us where to find it at.
The podcast is called Black and Called. If you go to Black and Called on Instagram, the link is in the bio. Right now, it's on Buzzsprout and on Spotify. Will soon be on Apple Podcasts.
That's beautiful. Shout out to them. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. We kept it under our target time. I'm so proud of you all. Like I said, one bathroom break and didn't even go to the bathroom. You talk about growth here. My bladder is growing day by day.
That's more so depending on what's in that cup.
Well, fuck
And
you.
what's been in that cup the past week?
Well, you know what? I've been drinking water, and y'all can kiss my ass. So, anyways, it was great to have y'all. Love y'all so much. Kariki, thanks for coming on. Don't be a ghost, whatever that word I was looking for. Yeah, don't be a ghost. Don't be a stranger. There we go. Don't be a stranger. Big baby, yeah.